Welcome to West Country Wanderings and welcome to one in my railway series. Today we're going to be having a look at the historic railway station that is Worcester Shrub Hill, here in the City of Worcester, of course, in Worcestershire. One of three railway stations in and around the city. In the city centre you have Worcester Foregate Street. A little bit further to the southwest you have the newer station of Worcestershire Parkway, which is on a junction of lines, the Cotswold line and the line between Bristol and Birmingham. But this magnificent building here recently had an anniversary. Yes, it was the 175th year of the railway station here in Worcester, and it was built 15 years later because originally it was a terminus station for the line on the old Worse and Worse, yes, the Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway, from the line just down from Birmingham to here to Worcester, before it was completed on to Oxford and thence on to London Paddington, of course. It was redesigned and rebuilt by a gentleman called Edward Wilson in 1865, who was the permanent way engineer for the aforementioned Oxford, Worcester and Wolverhampton Railway. And it is a magnificent structure, so we're going to be going in there, having a look in detail on it, because it's been restored recently, and it was only last month, October 2025, that it had its 175th anniversary. There's lots of interest here, semaphore signals, an amazing waiting room, lots of interesting structures, but also hereabouts around Shrub Hill itself there was a lot of railway infrastructure, some of which still survives. So hope you can join me again here on West Country Wanderings in Worcester to look at Worcester Shrub Hill. So here I'm in the car park of Edgar House, which is one of those 1960s office blocks. I think it was for government offices, not sure what it's used for these days. So it's not pretty of itself. As you can see, although the building and the brickwork has been restored, and that beautiful canopy, the bit underneath, which is part of Edward Wilson's original building with the arches there, has not yet been completed, but they are doing some work on it, as you can see from the fences there. But look at this, you can see some of the original lamps here on the forecourt, which is where all the taxi drivers park up to collect passengers coming off trains here into Worcester and to take in on to other locations around the city. But yeah, so they're doing work here. Wonderful arches there, but hopefully that will be restored. But as I say, the station itself certainly has been. You can look at the chimney detail as well. They've been restored, as well as the roof and, as I say, the canopy. You can see the original girders there from when Edward Wilson put them in, had them put in, should I say. So he was the permanent way engineer for the, I think it's a bit unkind calling it the old Worse and Worse. Obviously very important railway to connect Birmingham and Oxford, and then on thence to London. So as I say, in the car park of Edgar House now, and we'll just have a look at a couple of the buildings out here. This one in front of me, which is now the Shrub Hill Industrial Site Estate, should I say, which is now owned by Worcestershire County Council, is ripe for development. They are actually developing it now. So we can see this original railway wall here by the station forecourt. As I say, the station there is behind me. It's a huge wall. And here we go, it's here. So this is owned by Worcestershire County Council. Lots of businesses work out of here now. But this huge wall here is part of the railway infrastructure. Also down here we have what was the Great Western Hotel. Yeah, look at that brickwork there, amazing. At one time around Shrub Hill there was a vast network of railway infrastructure, as well as huge goods sidings. There were also carriage workshops, locomotive workshops and much else besides. And there is another little secret which we'll talk about later in today's video. But yeah, the Great Western Hotel there, isn't that wonderful to see? So let's make our way now back to the building itself, the Shrub Hill station itself, to take you around it and show you some of its delights and historical aspects from a railway point of view. There's Elgar House. I told you it wasn't very exciting, one of those ugly 1960s office blocks. But yeah, let's go into the station and have a better look at the detail of it. So today, Worcester Shrub Hill is looked after by West Midland Railway, and they have a couple of franchises. The other one I think is called the London Midland Railway. So West Midland, kind of a orangey grey colour, and that is themed throughout the station today. But it's also served by Great Western trains on the line, or two lines actually, the Cotswold line between Oxford here, Worcester, and on across to Hereford, and also the line between here and down to Gloucester and Bristol. There is an hourly service between Worcester, Gloucester and Bristol that started a couple of years ago now, so a really good service to connecting Worcester, Gloucester and Bristol now, which is really, really useful. And there's also an hourly service on the Cotswold line to Hereford and Oxford, and thence to London, Paddington, and of course trains to Birmingham, West Midland trains, and they also do a service to Hereford, although not all of those services stop here at Shrub Hill. You need to walk across the city to Foregate Street Station, which is a little bit beyond our video today. We won't be looking at that. Perhaps we'll look at that one for another time. Sorry about the dodgy lighting there, but here's our magnificent station closer up. So the footbridge here has also been recently restored as well. Nice and resplendent now. So you may notice that there is another footbridge on the other side, but that's actually a luggage bridge. You can see on the bottom right there are lifts in that one. It's only occasionally used. It's only used, I think, supervised with member of staff, West Midlands Railway staff here today. So you can see the detail, different brickwork, different colouring on this side. This is the red brick, and you notice you have the blue bricks on the outside. On the other side of the footbridge is actually the staff depot there for West Midlands Railway staff. Again, notice the detailing of the windows over there, those semicircular windows. No expense spared with Mr. Wilson on his design here, Scottish engineer. But as I say, did work here further south here in England as well. As you can see, the canopy above the platform there has been restored, although underneath it these days it's used for parking cars, unfortunately. But there are 3 tracks in the centre, but the middle track ends at the buffer stops there. But what you do have are the amazing semaphore signals here. One of the few places where you can still see semaphores in the West Country Wanderings region. One of the other places is at Droitwich Spa, but also Liskeard in Cornwall. In fact, I did a video looking at the demise of the semaphores in Cornwall last year when they took them out from Truro, and also Lostwithiel and St Earth. I'll link to that video at the end of this one. But yeah, one of the very few places still left. Now what's around here today is a bit of a shadow of its former self, of course. A lot of the sidings and good yards have been taken out, but there is still a fair bit here. We've got extensive sidings down there which are for permanent way, and you also have a network rail depot which is over there as well. In front of me there is another depot for West Midlands trains where they maintain their own railway vehicles, and behind me there is a stabling point for the Great Western vehicles as well, train vehicles. So still a lot here, as well as those semaphores. Train just coming in now. So this is a GWR Hitachi train. That one there, I think that's going on to Great Malvern today. Sometimes they say they continue on to Hereford as well, but that one would have started its journey today in Paddington. Much else to see. So there's 3 active platforms. That is platform 1A and B. So platform 1 is divided into 2 sections. The platform I on is platform 2, 2A and B. And at the end of this platform, the other end, we'll have a look at that, is a bay platform, platform 3, which doesn't get much use these days. There were a while, I think it was called Central Trains and London Midland Trains, around about the 2000, that they experimented with a more frequent service to Gloucester from here, but it didn't kind of work out. But now, of course, GWR have upped their frequency of the services to both Gloucester and to Bristol, and that is a really successful operation. So hourly trains to both of those two important West Country cities here. Train now making its way, of course, to Great Malvern, one of my favourite stations around. That's a Colas rail, piece of equipment down there for Network Rail, tamping machine. Looks like they're getting ready to move that on somewhere onto the network. And one of the things I like about that station is the platform 3, which is just kind of a bay, and as I say, it doesn't get used much these days, but it's this wonderful trap door here. Look at that. I've not seen that in many other stations. I wonder if it was used for unloading coal, perhaps using a boiler that's underneath this particular platform to keep the staff and passengers warm in the magnificent waiting room, which we'll have a look at later. Now you may notice this curious canopy on this side here at the end of platform 1. This bit doesn't tend to get much used. It was restored recently, probably last year I think, towards the end of last year, and I think it was probably just finished off early this year. But this here was the original Motorail terminal for services to Devon and Cornwall, so you could drive your car onto a train for a fee. It would take you to Newton Abbot, St Austell or Penzance, having saved your journey down the M5. Now the Motorail service I believe ended in the 1970s, but there was a strange revival then by First Great Western at the turn of the millennium, around about 2000. I think it lasted for about 18 months. Not from here though, it did go from Kensington in London and down to Penzance, but it was only a trial and sadly it wasn't a great success. But yeah, wonderful, the days when you could drive on a train here and take a train off in Devon or Cornwall. Oh, that would have been a great way to travel.
Is the 1016 Great Western Railway service to London Paddington. Calling at Worcestershire Parkway, Herschel, Evesham, Honeywell, Morton-in-Marsh, Kingham, Charlbury, Hanborough, Oxford, Didcot.
Magnificent waiting room here, which was originally a ladies' waiting room, has a cast iron frame, and that cast iron frame was cast just over there at the Vulcan Ironworks right here in Worcester. But also incredibly are the tiles. I'll insert some shots now because they were made at a place called Broseley, which is in the Ironbridge Gorge, of course in the Severn Valley. Severn of course runs through the city here as well, but they're absolutely beautiful. It was restored a few years ago in 2015. Next to the ironworks was a signal works there, yes, making semaphore signals indeed, also here in Worcester. I think they were called Mackenzie and Brothers, and they were adjacent. In fact, they were a sister company to the Vulcan Ironworks. Absolutely amazing to have this as a survivor here. In fact, if we look down there's a marker saying where they come from. It was actually at the Bental Works there in Broseley, of course in the county of Shropshire. But the detail on these is quite incredible. I've never seen another waiting room like this one here at Shrub Hill, which just adds on to the glories of this station here in Worcester. Now, Worcester Shrub Hill is actually quite a relatively quiet station these days. A lot of people are now using Worcestershire Parkway to avoid the traffic jams by driving here into the city centre, but it's still well used. But in between trains it does get quite quiet. But you can just soak it up, makes it a lot easier to film in. Worcester Foregate Street, on the other hand, which is right in the city centre, about a half a mile walk, not very far at all really, is an altogether different beast. It only has 2 platforms, but it's very, very congested there, which would make filming over there really, really tricky. Now, something that goes with semaphore signals, of course, are signal boxes. I'm pleased to report that in and around Worcester Shrub Hill there are 3 of them. This is the main one here for Worcester Shrub Hill, but there's another one at, I think it's called Tunnel Junction. It goes under Rainbow Hill. That's the line that goes on to Droitwich, where the lines then split left and right onto Kidderminster or directly to Birmingham. And there is another one on the other side of the River Severn Bridge, crosses over the River Severn towards the direction of Ledbury and Hereford. I'm back outside the station now. We're here. Now, all of this area would have once been huge for railways. Here you can see the bridge, or the road should I say, goes over a bridge, and the railway would have come out from Shrub Hill round here. And all of this down here, which is currently a retail park where you've got Home Bargains and Majestic Wines and all of that, would have been yards down there. We're going to have a little bit look further around here to see what we can see in terms of some of the old buildings that were once used for railway purposes. I'm now in Midland Road. Apologies for the traffic noise, but now looking at the rear of the signal box. Not a view you often get of it, but it's great seeing the semaphores here, isn't it? We're going to make our way along here. Can certainly see some more railway buildings there with that magnificent wall, so let's have a look at that. Just look at the magnificent architecture here. I think this is also influenced by our friend again that we saw at Shrub Hill. But yeah, look at those arches. Now, this area here was once the goods yard. We're here now at the GWR stabling point, so you can see a Hitachi IET there in the bay waiting to go into Shrub Hill or onto another destination. So it's out of use now. I think that's actually might be the going on to be the Paddington train, but I'm not sure of that. But often they will stable trains here overnight here at Shrub Hill. But yes, I think this was once the goods yard and the goods shed. Isn't it absolutely magnificent? Brilliant bit of brickwork there. Look at that. Absolutely magnificent there. So yes, I think this was the goods shed here, entrance here. And yeah, the architecture has gone beyond what would have been deemed necessary for the pure functionality of having a goods shed. But yes, Mr. Wilson probably thought, well, why not? And yeah, you could see the trains would have been gone in there as the IET leaves the stabling point and into Shrub Hill station. Brilliant. But there would have been another entrance here for the goods trains to come in through that arch there where the art memorial is now. But wonderful brickwork here just outside Shrub Hill station. Well, I couldn't complete the tour here of Worcester Shrub Hill. There are a couple of other things I think to show you yet. But this is the Lea and Perrins factory. Yes, of course, this is the home of Worcestershire sauce, and they would have had their own siding and goods point going onto the main line here just outside of Worcester Shrub Hill station. So there we go. In 1837, Messrs Lea and Perrins started manufacturing Worcestershire sauce at their premises in Broad Street in Worcester. That's in the city centre. And then they moved to the site here. And the plaques there erected in 1997, 10th of October, to mark 100 years of manufacturing Lea and Perrins sauce here at this site. So yes, this one opened in 1907, so now it's getting on for about 130 years from this site here, Midland Road here in Worcester. Yeah, wonderful. Now on a canal. Yes, no, it's not one of my canal series, but it's a bit of an important part of our story. This, of course, is the Worcester-Birmingham Canal. Down that way takes you to the River Severn, Diglis Lock, Navigable Severn down to Gloucester, of course. Covered that before. There was a bridge here, which is now a concrete pedestrian bridge, which was a railway bridge. And this linked in all of the yards that were once around here on this side, the western side of Worcester Shrub Hill station. Hard to imagine now, but you can tell it was a railway bridge. If I show you that there, you can see the original abutments there with the blue bricks of the railway. Oh yeah, that came across here. I think this was replaced round about the millennium, maybe a little bit before that, so there was original bridge around here. Now there was also goods yards around here for a company that was a vinegar factory. In fact, it was the biggest vinegar factory in the entire world. So yes, so as well as Lea and Perrins sauce, you also had an amazing vinegar factory. And what's interesting about that is that it partly ran along the road, I think just outside by Shrub Hill station, where I said the railway went under there. You had that, but you went a bit where it went over the road, and you had a man with a flag. Now this sounds very familiar to another place in Dorset, doesn't it, with the railway line from Weymouth town station to Weymouth Quay. Remember that, seeing that in the 1970, alas that's no more. And the one here, the tramway and the railway for the vinegar factory, closed in 1964. Now from this side of the canal you can actually make a lot of older buildings over there, some newer ones as well, some that have been redeveloped or repurposed from post-railway days. But yes, they were our locomotive works here in Worcester. Also carriage works as well. Let's see if we can get a closer look at that. The whole site is up for being redeveloped at the moment. So here alongside the canal at this point, opposite where the carriage works were, would have been a wharf. So goods could have been transferred from barges on the canal, on the Worcester-Birmingham Canal, and onto the railway network and vice versa, from the trains and canals. So although the railways did replace the canals, this canal was still in active use when the railways here were in use as well. And the two, well, there was like a play between both, a trade between both, if you like, the canal network and the railway network. And I believe the wharf was here where that brick wall is now, serving that area of where the locomotives and coachworks were. Yeah, amazing that, isn't it, to think that. But there are some, they are in a bit of a poor state, and like the goods shed, which has been refurbished, the ones here, the buildings here, aren't in the best of condition. They are doing restoration on the moment. There is actually an asbestos company obviously removing asbestos from the factory site here. Obviously a lot of these buildings would have had asbestos in them, and that's being expertly removed to make the building safe. We're now at the junction of Tullydane Road and Shrub Hill Road, with the works, railway works here, with a magnificent clock tower. Here's the building in all its fantastic glory. I do hope that can be restored. It's wonderful, absolutely wonderful. These are of multicoloured bricks. You've got the dark red bricks, lighter coloured bricks, yellow bricks and the blue bricks. Tremendous. So you can see the detail on that, the brickwork there. Truly is a wonder. And you can see from here the development we're in at the moment. I say it's owned by Worcestershire County Council, how close it is to Shrub Hill Station, which is just there, coming into view on the right. So that's it for today here on West Country Wanderings, one of my railway series from the magnificent and restored Worcester Shrub Hill Railway Station here in the county of Worcestershire. All those associated buildings with it. Particularly good to see the goods shed there, and also the locomotive works, and I understand part of that is going to be restored again. It'd be good to see that. Until next time on the channel, take care of yourselves, look after yourselves, and I hope to see you on the channel again very, very soon. all the best now. Cheers now, bye bye.